Hello class, this is Dr. Mu-tor Flood back with another video. This one is going to be on your assignment for correlations. Let's get started. So the first thing to do for this is when you're on the computer is you're going to pull up your SPSS or IBM SPSS statistics program. Let it load up so that we can put all our data in and run the analysis. So when it comes up, the first thing that you'll see is usually it's called a splash page. You can exit out of that. All right. And then we are going to put in our variable names and our data. So we're going to first go to variable view, which is right down here, which says variable view. Click on that. And we're going to put in our data. But before we do that, let's read what this sample problem is about. All right, so here's our correlation sample problem. An aerobics instructor believes that aside from the physical benefits of exercise, such as muscle tone, low body fat, weight control, there are also numerous mental/psychological advantages to engaging in regular aerobic exercise program. She believes that regular aerobic exercise is related to a greater mental acuity, stress reduction, high self-esteem, and greater overall life satisfaction. In order to test this hypothesis, she recruits a random sample of 30 adults to participate in her study. Each participant is asked to fill out a series of questionnaires consisting of the following. 1. A preliminary questionnaire asking participants to report the average number of hours per week that they engage in some sort of aerobic exercise. 2. A self-esteem scale, where higher scores indicate greater self-esteem. 3. A life satisfaction questionnaire to determine each participant's overall outlook on life. Higher scores indicate greater life satisfaction. 4. A perceived stress questionnaire. Participants are asked to read a series of vignettes describing potentially stressful events and are asked to rate the degree to which they perceive each event as stressful. Higher scores indicate greater stress. And 5, an intelligence test to determine the IQ of each participant. The results are as follows. So as you can see down here, there are 6 variables here. There is participant, exercise, self-esteem, satisfaction, stress, and IQ. And there are 30 participants who were tested or assessed on exercise, esteem, satisfaction, stress, and IQ. All right, so in this problem, we are interested in calculating the Pearson's product moment correlation between each pair of variables. In addition, for each pair, we wish to test the null hypothesis that the correlation between the variables in the population from which the sample was drawn equals 0. All right, so that is the actual sample problem. So let's put in our variables and our data. So then we're going to go back to this variable view that we were on, and so we're going to put in our variables. All right, so the first variable we're going to put is called participant. All right, we're going to put that right there. We're going to press enter. The next one we're going to put in is called exercise, and we're going to press so it made a boo-boo. All right, remember, you can't have spaces when you're creating your variable names. So I'm just going to put the word exercise and press enter. And then I'm going to put in the word esteem and press enter. All right. I'm not going to do the other variables that are shown in the sample problem, just participant, exercise, and esteem. All right. Then I'm going to change all of these decimals to 0 by all right, so change all of them to 0 by pressing into this box right here next to them and pressing the down arrow until you get to 0. All right, so change all these to 0. All right, and then I'm going to label each of these variables so that I know what they mean, because on the variable name it's short, whereas on the label I can describe in more detail what the variables actually mean. So for participant, that is an identification number. All right. For exercise, well, that is hours a week of aerobic exercise. That's what those mean. And esteem is self-esteem scores. All right, so now that I have all those, the labels, I am going to change the measure. And for participant, that's going to be a nominal measure. And for exercise and esteem, those are going to be scale and scale. All right, so now I have all of the data inputted. All right, and so now I'm going to run the analysis. All right, so I'm going to go to analyze. I'm going to go to correlate, and then I'm going to go to bivariate, and I'm going to press on bivariate. And what it does is list out all three of the variables that I created. All right, and I am going to move the hours of week of aerobic exercise, also known as exercise, by clicking onto this, and then I'm also going to click onto the I'm going to press on Control and hold down the Control button and press on self-esteem scores for the variable esteem, so that both of these two are highlighted. Then I'm going to press this arrow key right here, and it's going to move both of those variables to this box on the right titled Variables. All right, and then what I'm going to make sure is that certain boxes and certain things are checked off before I run my analysis. So I'm going to make sure under correlation coefficients that the Pearson's product moment correlation is checked off. Under the test of significance, I'm going to make sure the radio dial for two-tailed is checked. And then for flag significant correlations, I'm going to make sure that box is also checked. All right. And then once I do that, I'm going to press OK to run the analysis. Oh, see, I made a boo-boo. Before you are going to run anything, you have to put in data. So let's go back to the data. All right, so let's go to data view and put in some data. All right, so let's widen this right here. So for participant, I'm going to put in fictitious data. You're going to put in the data for your sample problem. So for my fictitious data, I have 5 participants. All right. For exercise, for my data, I'm going to have 12 here, then 13, then 15, then 37, then 46. All right. Then for esteem, I'm going to have the 22, 33, 44, 55, and 66. Okay, so now I'm going to repeat the thing that I did previously, where I'm going to run the analysis. So now I'm going to press on Analyze. I'm going to scroll down to Correlate. Where is that at? Scroll down to Correlate. I'm going to go down to Bivariate, and I'm going to press on Bivariate. And as you'll see, all the information is already in here because we just did that. So variables of hours a week of aerobic exercise is in under the variable box, and self-esteem scores are in this variable box as well. Pearson's checked off, two-tail is checked off, and flag significant correlations are checked off. So I'm just going to go and press OK, and now, because I have data, it should run the analysis. All right, so now I have my correlational data. All right, before we start interpreting this, we are also going to create a scatter plot. So to do that, I'm going to go to Graphs. Then I'm going to go to Legacy Dialogues. And then I'm going to scroll down to Scatter Dot. and this dialog box will appear. I'm going to press on Simple Scatter so that it becomes in a bold around the box. Then I'm going to press on Define, and another dialog box will appear called Simple Scatter Plot. All right, and I'm going to move exercise. I'm going to click on exercise. So hours a week of aerobic exercise. I'm going to move that to the x-axis, and I'm going to press on the self-esteem score, and I'm going to move that to the y-axis. All right, so now those two variables are in there. All right, and then I am going to press OK. And so once I press OK, this scatter plot will appear. Okay. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my computer lab assignment template. All right. And we are going to answer some of these questions. So the first one says you got to put in a note section. All right. So let's put in our note section. To do that, let's scroll up to the top again, and I am going to where it says notes for the second one right here, where it says correlations, because this output didn't deliver anything. So I'm going to put notes. I'm going to check off this one right here, and I'm going to double click the icon next to it so that a note section is going to appear. So now we have the note section. All right, great. Let's see what else we have to do for this. All right, it then says we're going to copy and paste the correlation output. So that can be found under the table called correlations. And we're going to copy and paste the scatter plot for exercise and esteem. So let's do that. So let's go to our data. All right. And we are first going to pull up our computer assignment correlation template. It has a note section, correlations table, and scatter plot headings. So let's put in our data. So the first one is going to be our note section. So we're going to go into the note section, right click, press copy, and then we're going to paste that into right underneath where it says note section, where it says keep source formatting. All right. Then because we want the heading for our table and the actual table to appear on the same page, I'm going to move this correlations table down. All right, the heading down, and then I'm going to copy the actual correlation table, and this is right here is the correlations table. So I'm gonna right click while I'm inside of the correlations table. I'm going to press copy, and then I'm going to paste that right underneath the correlations table heading under keep source formatting. Then where it says scatter plot, I'm going to put my cursor under there, and I'm going to paste the scatter plot from my data. All right, and so I'm going to hover within inside of the scatter plot, and I'm going to press right click. I'm going to press copy, and then I'm going to go to my template and put in my scatter plot. All right, and so that's my scatter plot. All right, and and then I am going to answer the remaining questions. So the next part of this is the write-up. So I'm going to put that on the next page because it just looks a little bit neater. And for the write-up, they ask me, what is the null and alternative hypothesis for this correlational study written in symbols? All right, so to find that out, I'm going to go to my PowerPoint slide for the part 1 of chapter 14. And I'm going to find where I have put in this the where I have put in the null and alternative hypothesis. So let's scroll down until we find it. All right, so here is the null and alternative hypothesis for a Pearson's product moment correlation. It is, for the null is this one right here, and for the alternative is this one right here. So you're going to copy and paste this into that particular portion of your write-up. Make sure it looks exactly like this. If it does not, you will not receive credit for that particular part of the assignment. All right, and if it doesn't copy and paste like this, you're going to have to figure out how to make subscripts and how to use this this P correctly inside in statistical notation. All right. Once again, the null and alternative hypothesis are going to change every time you do a new kind of statistical analysis. They're not going to be the same as what you had in previous assignments. All right. Okay. So once you do that, let's see what the other questions are. So the other one says, the next one, it says fill in the blanks and parentheses. And it goes, a Pearson's product moment correlation was run to assess the relationship between exercise and self-esteem. 30 participants were recruited, and we're going to choose that there was either was a statistically significant or a not statistically significant. We're also going to choose if the correlation between the two variables of exercise and self-esteem is it strong, moderate, or weak, and if that relationship is a positive or a negative correlation. All right, then we're going to put in that we did a correlation that Pearson's R, and in these parentheses we're going to put the degrees of freedom, and then we're going to put the actual correlation coefficient. All right, and then we're going to put what our p-value was. All right, so let's do that. First, what we're going to do is we are going to, on this sheet right here with the write-up, we are going to copy this, and we are going to paste that information into number 2 of this write-up. All right, and then to find out where all this information is at, we are going to go to our PowerPoint once more, and we're going to go to where I have color-coded where all of these answers, you could find all of these answers at. So right here is how you can find all of these answers. So in this one, this is not exactly the same as your example or your sample problem, but how to interpret it is pretty much the same. So there were 2 variables. One variable is engine displacement. The other variable is estimated annual fuel costs. All right, and now in a Pearson's correlation, what you're going to have is what's called a 2x2 matrix. So there's 2 variables here, and they're going to be compared to 2 variables here, which are the same variables. So if you wanted to know, in this one it says, a Pearson's product moment correlation was run to assess the relationship between engine displacement and estimated annual fuel costs. 10 participants were recruited. Well, how do we find out where the 10 participants are at? Well, that's right here where it says sample size, and over here where it says the number 10. Because engine displacement and estimated fuel costs are being correlated. All right, so we're just looking at this part right here and this part right here. And then it asks, there was a statistically significant correlation. Well, how do we find that? Well, we can find that two ways. One is by looking at right here. If you see asterisk next to the Pearson's correlation row, well, then that means you did find a statistically significant correlation. If you see one asterisk next to that number, it means it is statistically significant at the 0.05 level, which is the alpha level that we chose at the beginning of the study. If we have two asterisks next to that Pearson's correlation number, well, right here you can see the correlation is significant at the 0.01 level. And if there are three asterisks next to the number, well, then that means the correlation is going to be significant at the 0.001 level. All right. The next thing is, it goes, well, is this a strong, it asks us, let's look at the other stuff. Well, we ran a correlation, and in here you're going to put the degrees of freedom. So this one doesn't tell you this in here, but to get the degrees of freedom for a correlation, you are going to take whatever the sample size is. So in this case, it is 10, where this blue is at, and you're going to subtract 2 from that. So 10 minus 2 is going to give us, in this example, 8. Then it asks us, well, what is the Pearson's correlation? Well, that's going to be in green. Well, green is right here. It's 0.818. And lastly, it asks, well, what is the p-value? All right, the p-value can be found right here where this is yellow. We find it right here where this is yellow. And that is 0.004. P equals 0.004. Now, that p-value could come in many different kinds of ways. One way it could come in is like this. All right, it could just say less than p, because let's say less than 0.05, less than 0.01, less than 0.001, or less than 0.000. All four of these would be lower than the alpha level that we chose at the beginning of the study, which was 0.05. And if that is the case, if our p-value is less than the alpha level that we chose at the beginning of the study, well, that means we have found a statistically significant result. All right, so let's go back to that. All right, so that is a statistically significant result. All right, so let's go and put in some of this data. All right, so let's get out of this one. Okay, so a Pearson's product moment correlation was run to assess the relationship between exercise and self-esteem. 30 participants were recruited. There was a choose a statistically significant or not statistically significant, right? Well, in my example, I don't have 30 participants. Well, that's one thing. All I have are 5 participants. So you're going to have 30, I'm going to have 5. So let me make sure this is correct on my end. So for me, I have 5, but you're going to have 30. So 5 participants were recruited. And there was, well, we're going to choose if we have a statistically significant or not statistically significant result. Well, we just looked over on how to find that, right? Well, we look right here. Well, is there an asterisk next to this number right here? Well, it's kind of small, but yes, there is. And it says that, well, if you have one asterisk next to that number, well, that means the correlation is significant at the 0.05 level. So we did find a statistically significant result, correlation, I should say. So there was a statistically significant correlation. All right, and what we're going to do next is we're going to choose what kind of correlation we have. All right, is the correlation between those two variables, is it strong, moderate, or weak? or is it positive or negative? Well, the number we have for this correlation is we have 0.921, right? And so if it doesn't have a symbol in front of it, we're going to assume that it is a positive number. So that's a positive 0.921. And then we're going to scroll, we're going to pull up the table that we have in our sample problem, and it's right here. And I went over this in class with you. So we're going to interpret this. So in order to assess if we have a strong correlation, well, the correlations are weak if they're between 0 to 0.3, whether positive or negative. They're about medium or mid-size if they're from 0.04, all right, to positive 0.6, whether that's positive or negative. And it's a strong correlation if it's between positive 0.7 to positive 1, or negative 0.7 to negative 1. So my correlation in my data is, what is it again? Let's see. In my data, my correlation is 0.921. It's a positive 0.921. So let's go back to this. Well, a positive 0.921 is somewhere over here. So it is a strong, all right, positive correlation. So let's go into our data and let's go into our write-up and put that information in there. All right, so I'm choosing if it's a strong, moderate, or weak correlation. Well, it was 0.9, so and higher. So that is going to be a strong correlation. And is it a positive or negative correlation? Well, it was a positive correlation. So let's change that as well. All right, so there was a statistically significant, strong, positive correlation between exercise and self-esteem. The next thing is, well, we ran a Pearson's correlation, and the degrees of freedom that I have, well, my participants is 5, and in order to find a degrees of freedom for a Pearson's correlation, we're going to take our sample size, in my case, which is 5, and subtract 2 from it. So for me, my degrees of freedom should be 3. All right, for you, it'll be something different. Then it asks right here, well, what is the correlation between those two variables of self-esteem and exercise? Well, to find that correlation, it's going to be this number right here, 0.921. So 0.921, just like it was in the color-coded part, 0.921, or more precisely where you could find it in the color-coded part. And then it asks, well, finally tell me, what is the p-value? Well, the p-value is right here. Our p-value, where it says significance two-tailed, all right, this p-value is 0.026. All right, 0.026. All right, and as you can see, 0.026 is less than our alpha level of 0.05, which is why we have a correlation that is significant at the 0.05 level. So let's write 0.026 here. All right, 0.026. All right. And that is how you do the write-up for this particular assignment. And then what you're going to do is you're going to save this Word document and send it to me via Canvas. What you're also going to do is you are going to save this data. You're going to go to File, and you're going to go to Save As. All right. And then you're going to do the same with the output. You're going to go to File, and then you're going to go to Save As and save that data as well, or the output as well. And you're going to submit all 3 of those things to me. That is the write-up, that is also going to be the data, and that's going to be the output. All right, and that is going to be your assignment. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact me so that I can assist. Other than that, you have a great day, and until the next video, peace.